Hi, everybody. This is a podcast, Everything About Hockey. For the summer edition, I thought I'd do a preview of the Four Nation Face Off. This is a hockey tournament they're going to come up with in February, early February. There are going to be four teams participating in this: Canada, U.S., Finland, and Sweden. Each team is going to have a normal sized roster, and they're going to be playing with NHL rules. And how the point system is going to work out for this is you get 3 points for a regulation win. You get 2 points for an overtime win or a shootout win, and you only get 1 point for an overtime or shootout loss. And the top two teams will be playing in a championship game on February the 20th. Now how you can watch these games are you can watch it in TNT, ESPN, and ABC if you're in the U.S., or if you're in Canada, Sportsnet will be broadcasting these games. So I thought I'd do for just a laugh and giggles. I thought I'd just come up with some players I think to be in like the top 6 forwards, the top 4 defensemen, and a couple of goaltenders I think will be playing at this point in time for these teams. I know we're pretty far out, so a lot could occur to keep these guys from actually making it to the rosters. You got injuries or just a down performance that the team management decides to go with another direction, another player. But let's just see what I think and what you guys think should be on these top 6 forwards, top 4 defensemen, the 2 goaltenders that should be participating in this league. First, we'll start out with, let's look at the U.S. national team first. Of course, you're going to have to put Austin Matthews there, a dynamic all-around center iceman. I can see him anchoring that first line. Jack Hughes, another unbelievably talented center iceman they'll have available. Then also Vincent Trocheck. I think he's an interesting guy. He's a quality center iceman. He could play either first or second line. Actually, he could even play third line if you wanted him to, because he's also solid on the defensive side. Let's look at my right wingers that I got. Matthew Tkachuk's the first one. He can do everything. He can play in front of the net, along the boards. He can play in the power play. He can kill penalties for you. He's just a stud. Obviously, if you watched the Cup Finals this last spring, you see what he can do. He can lead a team in the battle and be successful. The other guy I'm going to go with is Brock Besser. He plays for Vancouver. He's also another one of those big body guys that also can play in front of the net, along the boards, power play. He would be ideal for this tournament. Then the last right winger, I think I'm going to put Jake Getzel in this spot, simply because he's a sniper. He's a finisher. And every team needs in that top 6 a finisher for the power play. And when they really need a goal, 5-on-5, he is really great at this. All those years in Pittsburgh has really taught him when to shoot and when not to shoot, which made him real intelligent on getting that shot off in an open situation. And on the left side of these wingers, first off, I'm going to go Chris Kreider, another big, strong, reliable winger. Then I'm going to go J.D. Miller, another one of those wingers that can do a little bit about everything. I think these guys would be really great on that left side. And then the guy that I'm going to use for when I need some more offense, another sniper, another finisher, I'm going to go with Jason Robinson. Of course, the guys I left off was Alexander Tuck, another guy I would love to get on this team. Alexander DeBrincat, another sniper that we could always use. One of the other guys that I'd really like to get on this team, but I just don't have room for, is Cole Corfetti. It's a young, talented forward, plays for Montreal. I'd love to figure out a way to get him on here, but I just can't do it. These guys, 3 guys, are just, there's no room for them, unfortunately. Tremendously deep. There is going to be some really good guys that aren't going to be able to play in this top 6. Now let's look at the defensemen that I got scheduled to be on this team. Okay, the first guy I'm going to go with is Jacob Slavin. Plays for the Carolina Hurricanes. He's just a stud defenseman. Can play physical, can put in some offense. He's a all-around guy. Adam Fox, the next one, a Ranger. This is just pure offense. This guy's I want him on the team because I want him to anchor the power play and drive the play from the blue line. Now, another guy I'm going to go with is Seth Jones. He's on a bad team, but this is a minute crunching defensive defenseman. They can clear out in front of the net and do all the dirty work you need in a tournament like this. The other defenseman I want to put on this team, even though he also plays for another bad team, is Zach Werenski. I think he'd be great to anchor that second line power play. And he's another guy that can push the puck up the ice. He's a really all-around with a high-end offensive skill set. Well, now it's the ones that won't make the team. But I think this guy will definitely have a chance to make the team because Zach tends to get hurt really easy. And I think Brock Faber would have a really, really great opportunity to make this team because of that. He's another one of those guys that just an unbelievably high-end, all-around skill set that could really fit in nicely on this blue line. Another guy I'd like to fit in, but I don't think there's going to be room in the top four, is Noah Hanifin. I like this guy's skill set too. He's not an outstanding defenseman, but he does all the little things right. And he can chip in on a critical time for a critical goal too. I just don't see him fitting in the top four on a team like this, though. Let's look and see who I think is going to be guarding the crease for this U.S. national team. First one, it's going to be Connor Hellebuck. This guy's just a workhorse. He can give you 60 games, and it doesn't bother him at all. So a little tournament like this is going to be a piece of cake, this guy, and he is really reliable. Last year, he averaged around 2.5 goals a game. So he can get the job done. He's definitely going to be the number one goaltender I would pick. The other guy I'd pick would be Jake Ottinger. Now, I'm not a big fan of this guy. He just bothers me a little bit. But this guy does win, and he is solid in the net. You watch Dallas play, and he gets the job done. He would definitely be a reliable number two. If Hellebuck does come down with an injury or something, he definitely could step in and get the job done. So I would definitely put him as one of the other goaltenders. So now we've gone through the U.S. national team. Let's go with the Canadian national team and find out what they have on their roster. Let's first start with the centers. The really obvious ones everybody would pick, including me, is Connor McDavid, Sidney Crosby, and Brandon Point. All those guys average over a point a game. They're dynamic in every way. It would be really hard to figure out which one would be the number one center on the first line. No matter who you pick as your first two line centers, you're going to get a great player is going to be left off this list. I mean, face it, all three of them are going to be Hall of Famers when their career's over with. Let's look at the right wingers. First off, Nate McGinnis. I'd put him in the right side. Mitch Marner and Sam Reinhart. All another group of guys that average over a point a game. I mean, whoever gets left off this list in the top six is another Hall of Famer going to be left off. The only reason why I got Nate McGinnis at the right side is because he has to be on this team. And we've already got too many centers in the top six already. So I had to find somewhere to put him. And I think he'd probably be the best fit as a winger than the other three centers I said before, moving them over to wing. Now on the left side, I'm going to go with a little bit more grit because you're going to need some toughness for this tournament too. And I think Brandon Hagel would be the ideal left winger to be put on this list. He's a high energy guy that can tip in a clutch goal when you need it. Then I'm going to go with another super pest, Brad Marchand. He's an elite energy super pest winger that's willing to do anything it takes to win a game. Then the other guy I'm going to put on there, even though I probably wouldn't put him in his top six because the first two guys I'd want on the team, is Zach Hyman. And now let's look at the blue line for the Canadian national team. Okay, the first one's obviously going to be Cale McCard. I mean, he's a unbelievably offensive-minded defenseman. He's up there with Bobby Orr with his stick handling capability and his shooting. Solid defensive too. He could be great for anchoring that first power play. He pushes the puck up the ice. Unbelievably great. Smooth skater. That's a no-brainer. Next one would be Dougie Hamilton, another elite defenseman. He plays solid in his own zone. He can play on the penalty kill. And you can even play him on the power play if you want. Next one I'm going to go with is Drew Doughty. I know he's getting old, but for his experience and his knowledge of all those cup wins he had in LA, I think it'd be real crucial to have him on his team for the short play so you get calm the blue line down a little bit and set the tempo of all the games. The next couple guys I'd like to get on there, but I'm not too sure if I can. The first one is he always seems to come up with his good clutch goals when they need it. And he just has another real calming presence on the ice. That's Devin Taves. I'd like to figure out a place to put him. I probably would go with Josh Morrissey instead because he's a minute crunching, all around high end defenseman. I think could be better suited for this team because we've already got some really good offensive mind defensemen. Of course, another guy I have to leave off would be Shea Theodore, another guy that you'd like to get on the team, but there's no room for him in the top four. Now let's look at the goaltending. I'm going to go with Stuart Skinner and Jordan Binnington, both are very reliable goaltenders. Binnington has won a cup, so he'd probably be my starter. Last year, their goal against average, both of them, are a little over 2.5 goals per game. And of course, if you don't like that one, neither one of those, you always have Tristan Jarry to fall back on. He's another solid goaltender. And all these goaltenders, all three are really good goaltenders. But it's just odd that normally, when Canada normally goes into these national team tournaments, they always have a future Hall of Fame, a real stud goaltender, a guy that you like, wow, I can't believe Canada has this goaltender available to him. I'm talking about like Martin Brodeur, Patrick Waugh, Luongo, guys that you're like, whoa, this is impressive. But for some reason, this time around, they have all-star type level goaltenders, but they don't have future Hall of Fame goal. Well, I guess Jordan Binnington, since he did win a cup, I guess you could consider him a future Hall of Fame goaltender. And don't get me wrong, I think all these goaltenders could win a tournament for Team Canada. They're solid goaltenders. Now let's look at the next team. The next team we're going to talk about is Sweden. We're going to talk about their centers first. Elias Pettersson is the first center I like to focus on. He's one of those guys that's just an offensive threat. He averaged over a point a game last year in the NHL. The next one I want to pick for this team is I'm going to go with Mika Zibanejad. I think he's going to be a real interesting top 6 center iceman. He can score the goals when you need them. He can play defense. He can play on the power play. I'd even put him on the penalty kill. The other guy I'd like to put on this list is Elias Lindholm. I think he's a great utility center iceman. They can play anywhere you want, and he's just solid everywhere. So obviously they're going to have a tough decision at the top 6 center ice position for Sweden's national team playing in this tournament with those 3 guys. Which ones would you pick as your number 1 and number 2 center iceman? Now on the left side, I think this is going to be pretty cut and dry from here. You got Forsberg and William Nylander as your 2 options for your top 6 left wingers. Because the only other options they have at this left wing spot is William Karlsson and Leo Carlson. Not related, by the way. Spelled totally different. The other options at left wing. So I think Forsberg and Nylander are definitely going to be their top 2 left wingers. On the right side, you got Justin Bratt He's over a point a game. He's a nice little sniper you got. The other options they have on that side are Adrian Kempe and Lucas Raymond. Both are good players, but they're not dynamic. Offensive force for the right side. So I don't know. That'd be a tough choice. That second line right winger. That'd be a tough decision which way you'd want to go. Now, Sweden is really deep. They got 5 guys that could fit in the top 4 on the blue line. So this is going to be a tough decision which one of these guys you want to leave out. First person I'm going to put on this list is the Gustav Forsling. I think he's definitely a top 4 defenseman for Sweden. Victor Hedman, definitely a top 4 defenseman for Sweden. Then obviously you got to put Rasmus Dahlin in there. He's a offensive force. He can on the power play. He can shoot from the point. He can push the puck up the ice for you. He's definitely top 4 for Sweden. This is where I'm having a hard time. Hampus Lindholm or William Karlsson to round off that top 4. Both of those guys would be really interesting. Lindholm, he gets these clutch goals. He's solid on the defensive side. But William Karlsson, the way he can skate and the way he can drive the play, that's also kind of a nice idea too. So, tell me what you think. Which ones would you pick for the top 4? For the guys who make card in the crease, Jacob Markstrom is one of the guys I'm picking. He's a solid goaltender that doesn't make many mistakes. So I think he'd be an interesting person to put in there. And the other guy, the other one's going to be Arenas Omar. He's another solid goaltender, not a all-star super goaltender. Neither one of them have these elite goaltenders for this team, which I think is going to be a little bit of a problem. They can win games, but they're not going to steal games, neither one of these goaltenders. So the final team in this tournament is going to be Finland. Let's look at their center iceman. First, we're going to go with Alexander Barkov, big, powerful center iceman. And then we're going to go Sebastian Aho, another slick, smooth skating center iceman. Then the other person they can go after is Rope Hintz. He's a two-way center iceman. So they got a really interesting choice of which way they want to go for their top 6 center icemen. All 3 could do the job. Of course, I think Aho and Barkov are probably the 2 better of the choices because they're average last year over a point a game. They still play solid defense. Now let's look on the right side. Mikko Rantanen, they're one of the forwards they have an option to pick. I definitely think he'll be on the team and be the starter on the right side. The guy's just a pure, all-around talented, high-end, skilled winger that can score from anywhere, wrist shot, slap shot, and also solid on the defensive side too. Another forward they have on that right side they can pick from is Teuvo Teravainen. He's a solid all-around utility winger. The other option they have is Michelli. Is a solid offensive forward. So here I think it's going to be really interesting to see who get that number 2 spot in the top 6 right wing. On the left side, I think Alturi Lettinen will probably be the starter. He's a good, versatile forward. I think the other person is going to be Eli Toivinen. This is a rundown of what the wingers I think are going to be for the Finland team. Now let's look at the defensemen. They've only got one defenseman at all-star level at the NHL. That's Miro Heiskanen. This guy's going to log heavy minutes and be responsible for putting in some offense. I also have Nico Mikkola. He's a solid all-around defenseman too. Another steady defenseman they have an option to getting is Juuso Välimäki. Then the last option is Riskalainen, but he's a little bit of an unknown factor at times. He can play good at times, and sometimes he can play really bad. But see, I'm talking about how their blue line is not that great. You also have to remember, Finland's been known for playing, their national team has been known for playing a very team-oriented defense. All 5 guys are really programmed to get back and protect their end of their defensive zone first before they go on to attack. So having a kind of a weak blue line might not be as big of a factor as you think. And also, you got to consider UC Soros is going to be the goaltender for this team. They're going to have an elite goaltender that can win games on his own. So, having a weaker blue line, I don't think is going to be that big of a factor because this guy can carry the team. He does this with Nashville game in and game out. So I don't see how it's going to be that much different. And for doing it in a small tournament like this one. The only down part that's going to be, though, is their backup. It'll be Korpisalo or Luukkonen. I can see one of them two guys getting the backup role. And neither one of those guys gives me a whole lot of confidence. So if Saros gets hurt in this tournament, this team's in trouble. So to wrap this thing up is the Canadian national team. I love the forwards, love the defense. Goaltending, big question. U.S. national team, the forwards, especially down the middle, look unbelievably talented. But at wing, they're not great. They're just solid. I really like the blue line. This is a high-end, highly skilled blue line. And at goal, I think Hellebuck can carry a team in a small tournament. And he can also win games by himself, too. So the U.S. team's looking good. Sweden, they have a solid set of forwards. Not overly outstanding, but can get the job done. I really like their blue line. Their blue line is deep and really talented. Now, their goaltending is good, but not outstanding. And like I said with Finland, they have a good set of forwards, defense, and they really need some work there. But they have a goaltender that can win games on their own, as long as he stays healthy. 4-nation face-off from the NHL. The host city is going to be Montreal and Boston. If I was in those cities, I'd definitely go to every one of these games. But if not, I'll give you 3 games that are must-watch. Remember, you can watch these games on TNT, ESPN, and ABC if you're in the U.S., or if you're in Canada, Sportsnet. First game you want to watch, and the first game of the tournament, is going to be Wednesday, February the 12th at 8 o'clock, Canada versus Sweden. That'll be a really good game. The next one is Saturday, February the 15th at 8 o'clock, U.S. versus Canada. That's another must game for me. And then, them 2 games we played in Montreal, by the way. And the game in Boston that I'm really going to be interested in is Monday, February the 17th at 8 o'clock, Sweden versus the U.S. And then February the 20th at 8 o'clock, that's going to be the championship game. I hope you enjoyed this podcast, and thanks for listening.